In this video, I'm going to show you how to make Roman shades. I designed these to not have a horizontal seam running across the blinds where the dowels are. I think it makes it look way more high-end and designer. Okay, so you're gonna need your fabric. I am using this stripe. I need my finished product to be 64 by 42. So for length, I added about 6 inches for the bottom and the wrap around the top. So I have 70 inches in length, and then for width I added 6 inches. There'll be a nice wrap around the corner where it'll still have this nice fabric, and I have a 1-inch seam allowance. I just like 1 inch because it makes my life easier. And then I also have a liner, a back liner fabric. If you have enough of this fabric, you can use the same fabric on the back. I don't. I have this for my length minus 4 inches. So I needed 42 inches, and I would have 2 inches of the stripe around the inside, and then I have 1-inch seam allowance, so this is 38 inches. First thing, iron this so that it has the proper folds and makes the proper width. 3 inches, and I'm just gonna follow this stripe all the way down and iron it, and I'm gonna do this side with 3 inches in. Anyone else's pet try to be a helper when you're trying to cut and lay out fabric? I ironed the pretty fabric, and I didn't iron the inside layer, inside the window facing layer, because it's fine. Flip this around. We are going to sew 1-inch seam, like a 1.5-inch seam allowance actually. And then once I have this side done, I'm gonna do the same on this side. I'm gonna bring these two pieces together and sew it with like a 1.5 seam allowance. Sewed my 2 pieces. It's kind of like a pillowcase right now, but both sides being open. So I'm gonna flip it right sides out, and then it'll probably need to be ironed again. But you can see this is the back side. There's just a like 2-inch overlap of the pretty fabric, so that way when it's all pleated on the side, you'll see the fabric, the nice fabric, and then the front is fully the stripes. So I'm going to iron this flat, then it's pretty easy from here on out. Once you sew the front and back of your curtain together and you iron it nice and flat, next step is to cut your dowels and bracket for the top, main support beam. I don't know, but I cut these all 1 inch shorter than the width of your curtain. So my curtain's 42 inches, so I cut all of these at 41 inches. My style that I'm going for, I was really inspired by this photo by Matilda Goad, where her Roman shades are hanging around her window frame. And also, if you zoom in, or I'm gonna crop in this photo, you can see that there's no stitching all the way across horizontally that holds the dowels in. I watched YouTube videos and tutorials on how to make Roman shades, and I couldn't find one that uses this method. So this method I think looks cleaner. It looks more high design. I like my bottom dowel that hangs the windowsill to be one size up from the dowels that are gonna be in the shade. So I think these are 3/8 and this is 1/2 inch. I also like my pleats to be 8 inches, so that means I'm separating my dowels by 16 inches. You can do it however you want. It's really helpful to, at this stage when you have the fabric just ironed nice and flat, to fold it and find the pattern that works for you. You can also have your Roman shades be so that each time you fold up, there's a little bit of the layer overlapping, so then you would actually have your first layer be separated by 18 inches, then your next layer by 16, then by 14, then by 12, so that it creates this more layered effect. Or you can have them all kind of lay nice and flat next to each other, which is the look that I'm looking for. So I'm separating my dowels equally. To begin, the dowels, let's start with the bottom one because that's the easiest. Okay, so for the dowel that's going to be on the windowsill, I am just going to do a rolled hem on the bottom and make sure the hem is wide enough to just slide this dowel in. I'm gonna go ahead and take this to my ironing board. I have my bottom hem done, and I'm literally just going to slide this heftier, beefier dowel into this, and I'm hoping it'll catch. Yeah, nice. On one side it'll catch really nicely on there, and then on this side I hope I can stretch it through, get it caught. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now the dowel is secured in here. So this is the bottom dowel, and hopefully you can see that it's hanging quite nicely. Next step is to create the cases for the dowels that are going in the middle. I'm cutting these strips 3 inches longer than my dowels and 3 inches wide. So when I fold it in half, which accounts for a 1/2 inch seam allowance, then I'll have 2 inches to flip it inside out. When I sew them, I sew the short side and then the long side, and then I leave the bottom short side open so that I could flip it inside out. Now you have your 3 pillowcases that I keep on calling them, and you want to take them. I'm using the dowels to help put them right sides out. Lost my audio. Anyways, I stitch up the open end of the dowel case. I move over to hand sewing, where we have to hand sew the hoops onto the back of the blind. For the bottom dowel, that's going to touch the window frame. All you have to do is add 2 hoops. I sew them about 8 inches in on both sides. Then once you're done with the bottom dowel rod, you're going to take one of your sleeved dowels, measure your distance that you are looking for. I'm spacing on my dowels 16 inches. And then I do a few stitches on the outermost edge of the dowel and the outermost edge of the curtain. This will create 2 connection points of the curtain with the dowel. So you can see in this clip here, the dowel is still quite loose and it needs additional connection points. So I want to use that same distance of 8 inches that I used on the bottom to connect the hoops to the rod and also stitch the rod to the back of the curtain. So this will create another connection point with the dowel to the curtain. To confirm, make sure you are connecting both the dowel casing to the back of the curtain and also connecting the hoop to the dowel rod. Now do the same thing where you connect the ends of the dowels and connect the 2 hoops as many times as you need to get to the top of the curtain. So I have to add 3 of these middle dowels. For the 1x2, that's going to be the top bracket that connects all your hardware and connects to the wall. I staple on some fabric to the edge just to ensure that the raw wood won't be showing. So I kind of wrap it up like a present and staple it, and do this on both sides. To connect my bracket, I have to place the top of my bracket at the length that I need my finished curtain to be at. So I want my finished curtain to be 64 inches. And I want to staple my fabric on the back of this bracket. So I'm going to cut this off at 3 or 4 inches longer than my finished product length. I also didn't want the raw edge to be showing, which is just a personal preference. It won't be seen anyways because it's going to be up against a wall, but I kind of created like a rolled hem, if that makes sense, on the back of this. And I just put a bunch of staples using my manual stapler. Once I'm done stapling, I'm confirming that my length from the bottom dowel to the top of this bracket is 64 inches, and I'm going to just check this across the way. We are going to add our hardware. So I'm using 2 pulleys and a cord lock. If you don't have pulleys, you could also use cup hooks. I'm marking 8 inches in, and that's where my pulleys are going to go on both sides because that's where my hoops are, all the way down my blind. And I'm putting my cord lock on the far left side when you're looking at the back. So that means that my cord lock will be on the right side, which is how most blinds work. A lot of the videos I saw said to put the cord lock directly next to your pulley and even overlap a screw. But I did that on my prototype and it was very difficult to use, and the cord you would pull would get tangled with the cord in the back. So I don't recommend doing that. I recommend putting your cord lock as far to the side as you can get. I'm also going to mark a spot to add an L bracket, which I can use to mount the blinds to the wall. I'm pre-drilling holes because I don't want this to split. Now I'm going to screw in all of my hardware. For the cord locks I'm using, the flat side goes in towards the middle of your curtain and the 45-degree angle side goes out towards the edge of your curtain. Here you can see I'm adding my L brackets about 5 inches from the edge on both sides. Here is all the hardware on there. You can see brackets, 2 pulleys, and the cord lock. Now you're going to take some non-stretching cord, make a really good knot on the bottom hoop where the dowel that's going to touch the windowsill is, Then feed it up through the remaining hoops and dowels. You're going to put the cord up and over the pulley. The pulley away from the cord lock is only going to have one cord through it, and the pulley on the side with the cord lock is going to have two cords through it. To use the cord lock, put your cords through the top of the cord lock, and there's a loose gear in there, and just drop it in between the loose gear and the stable gear that doesn't move. And sometimes there's little dividers where you could put each cord through the divider. This is how the cord locks that I purchased work, but if you have different ones, just follow the manufacturer's directions. I'm going to hang up my blind. I'm hanging mine practically at the ceiling and then drilling it into the wall. I find it easier to hang these up while the cord is pulled tight and the blinds are up. You usually have to train Roman shades to lay nicely, so that's why mine are a little wonky right now. Here's me slowly pulling the blind up and trying to train the fabric. If you had a handheld steamer, this would be the perfect time to use it, but after a few days of them staying up during the day, they will start to fall nicely and close nicely. To cut the cord at the right length, make sure your curtains are in the downward position. Reach your hand up to a comfortable height where you feel comfortable starting to pull the cord at about 6 inches and cut. Here you'll want to put beads or a cord pull. I'm using beads as my cord pull, and tie knots to keep the beads in place. And that is how I made these beautiful Roman shades. I love the way they turned out, and I really like using this method where the dowels are encased and just hand stitched on. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.